Welcome to Recovery with Root, a podcast centered on topics surrounding mental health and addiction. Through our Advanced Recovery Institute, a new entity of the Root Center for Advanced Recovery, we are committed to research and training to elevate clinical care. We hope you find this podcast informative, and most of all, we hope that it helps improve the lives of others. Remember, we're in this together, and recovery is possible.
Welcome back to another episode of Recovery with Root. My name is Margaux, Chief of Staff here at the Root Center for Advanced Recovery, joined by Ashley Hickey, Chief of Operations. You will also be seeing her a lot more on this podcast. Ashley, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, me too. I think it was time for a little bit of a refresh, a Root refresh on the podcast. We've been doing it now for, I think 2 years.
Really?
2 years, yeah. So we
No
started,
way.
we were just talking, we had the little microphones, we were doing it with no video.
The old days.
Then we got the media room. This is absolutely beautiful. We've had guests come in. We've had, sometimes even 2 guests coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And now we were just kind of thinking, what other ways can we get people to know about Root, get people to talk about mental health, addiction, all of those important topics in a way that's just more approachable. So we figured, why not just make this kind of a talking session, right?
Yeah.
Just like kind of
a couch talk.
a couch talk, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we were brainstorming some names, like 2 execs, no script, right?
Yes.
We're coming in here unscripted, and we just want to talk about the latest. So I guess, you've been in your role now as Chief of Operations for about a year. So give us a little bit of rundown as to what that's been like for you, because you've really seen every role in this organization almost.
Yeah, hearing that it's been a year, it's eye-opening, but it's also like, really, only a year? Like, it feels like I've been in this role for years and years and years. And starting with Root Center, 7 years ago in September, which is also crazy to say, starting as an IOP counselor, working my way up to kind of where I am now. I've had this unique ability within Root Center world to see every position and see every avenue and every nook and cranny, so to speak, of behavioral health as it pertains to Root. And it puts me in a different position as COO. It puts me in a different seat as I'm sitting here trying to navigate and trying to, as executives, we do strategic planning and we do these macro level thinking, but I try to often not forget where I came from, and often try not to forget the seat in which I sat when I first started with Root Center. Because those are the most important people. Those are the folks that are making the referrals every single day. Those are the folks that are meeting with our patients day in and day out and hearing all of what they're going through and bearing the weight of what their patients are going through and trying to get them connected to the care that they might need, or they might, how we say in the behavioral health world, meet criteria for. And I'm just sitting here saying, let's create this workflow. And our census and productivity isn't where it needs to be. And sitting in this seat, I'm extremely blessed and extremely lucky, and I'm thankful for Root Center. But I also, it's not about me. It's about the staff that do this on the day in and the day out, and it's about our patients that come in every single day. What are we at now? 5,400 patients?
Yeah, at 5,400 to 5,500, I think it alternates on any given day, and that's why I think it's so important that you mentioned that, like, the bearing witness part of this role, and you specifically also having a private practice outside of Root Center, you really do that kind of work, and speak to why it's important now that you've been in that executive chair for a year now, as to why sometimes having that other piece of information, that real life lived experience where you've worked with patients on a one-on-one basis, how does that change your view on leadership and what you bring to the table?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and leadership can hold a definition of many different things to many different people. And I think that for me specifically, the most important part of leadership is the team in which you're surrounded by. There's no way to judge the type of leader that I am without the team that's underneath me, or the team that works with me, not even underneath me. You can delete that from this recording if you want to. That's not what I meant. But it's the team. It's who I work with. It's the people that make my job easier, right, and more enjoyable, and bring back the passion, and being able to have an idea or experience, exposure, right? That's a really good word. Exposure of what it's like to sit in the seat for the directions that I'm providing now, right? So on any given day, I could be looking at data. Oh my gosh, so much data and numbers and productivity and census, and being and having the exposure that I've had, I'm able to understand kind of the workflow or the day-to-day, the A through Z that happens from 5:30 a.m. early as heck when our clinics open up and the staff come in till 1:30 when they go home to be with their families and, you know, live their lives. I have an idea of what that looks like. So now when I'm taking a step back to say, hey, we need to rework this workflow, I'm able to kind of navigate that new workflow in a way that's going to work best for the staff that are going to be implementing it. And I have an idea of how they're going to implement it because I understand what their day-to-day looks like. And again, extremely lucky. I don't know necessarily anyone that's been able to sit in my seat and the same agency and have been sat and then also sat in a seat that's IOP counselor or PSR or front desk and kind of worked their way up to be able to navigate the day-to-day from the same agency.
Well, you have to imagine that's what it takes to move the needle, right? You get
Sure.
somebody in the position who knows about lived experience, who knows what it takes to do the job. Because sometimes when you get into those leadership positions, I mean, how often do we hear the tale from any job, any profession, any industry, that the people at the top don't know what's going on in the day-to-day. They're not in the weeds, they're not in the mix of stuff, and so they're making decisions from afar, and
Yeah.
it may impact. But, you know, having somebody who's on the team who still practices with patients on a day-to-day basis, who has done that role, so you can't say, you know, I don't know where you came from, because you absolutely do. You've lived that life too.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it helps, you know, make decisions that are empowered for the people who are living them every day. So for the staff and the patients who are going to have to abide by the rules and the protocols, but you have that lived experience, which makes it different.
For sure. And, you know, humbly also, Margaux, it's changing. The navigating behavioral health, the idea of behavioral health, what behavioral health is, what mental health is, what substance use is, it is vastly different from when I was once an IOP counselor here 7 years ago. I mean, we went through COVID, we've come out of COVID, we've had to adjust because of COVID, and now we're living in this world where substance use and mental health were so incredibly overlapping, and they have been for years and years and years before my time even. But now behavioral health, especially Root Center, has become so much more encompassing of both substance use and mental health and how we treat both and the whole person, that yes, I have that lived experience, but I'm still forever growing and I'm still forever learning. I wish I could wave a magic wand. And in therapy world and in therapy 101, we always ask our patients, like, if in our intakes, if I could wave a magic wand and make everything better, what would life look like for you? And, you know, that magic wand is, and that bar is forever changing in the world of behavioral health. And again, yeah, I have that lived experience, but I'm still learning and I'm still growing along with our patients, along with our staff, along with Root Center. Holy cow, Root Center is growing.
I know, don't tell me about it. I'm going to have to plan another groundbreaking or grand opening here any minute.
So, I mean, yeah, that needle is forever being pushed, and amazing for Root Center, you know, and I might be a little biased, but it's amazing to see that as an individual, as a leader, as a person, as a human, as a therapist, LPC, LADC, my lived experience got me to where I am, but it's not going to take me to where I want to go. I still need to learn. I still need to be open to learning, which I think is very important as a leader. But Root Center is growing. Like, the opportunities are endless. Our patient population is growing. Our patient population is also learning, and we're only as good as them, right? So I just, yeah, it's amazing to be in this seat, but it's also, you know, it's humbling that there's still so significantly more to learn and be able to adjust to.
Yeah, you talk about that learning and you know, me not having a clinical background, right? So I'm coming from the creative side of things, and so I really get to see those changes firsthand, because for me it does seem starkly different from like where were we 7 years ago, and I didn't necessarily know what, you know, clinicians' protocols are, to now being in this world and being a little bit more familiar with it. And you know, something I wanted to have the opportunity to discuss with you today, because it's something that certainly we are trying to advertise more, talk more about, is higher level of care. Yes, and so when you talk a lot about learning and being open to learn, I feel like the conversation around higher level of care is stronger now than it ever has been in my time here. Can you speak a little bit about, just overarchingly, like for someone who's listening to this and they're like, what the heck is higher level of care? What does that mean?
Yeah.
And then what is our stance on it here at Root?
Yeah, so I'm sure from our viewers and our listeners, we have both patients and, you know, staff or employees or professionals in the field. So Higher level of care is just a level of care in which we refer patients to. And it's, when we say higher level of care, I honestly, maybe I should do some research before I come to these podcasts, because I don't even know where that originated from. However, you know, patients come in and day out of Root Center. They come in, they get their medication, and they go home. So that is a level of care. ASAM, that is our outpatient level of care. When we talk about a higher level of care, we're talking about referring them to something more than what they're currently engaged in or what they're currently being referred to, based off of a plethora of criteria. Those of the professionals that are listening and our viewers, I'm sure everyone is leaning into ASAM and is loving it, sarcastically, just as much as we are. But in all seriousness, it helps kind of create a road, a pathway, you know, a checkbox system, so to speak. And if they have A, then we can refer them to B. If they have C, then we can refer them to D. And higher level of care is really just that. We assess the patients and we refer them. Our CEO, Steven Zuckerman, always says, I'll remember this probably until far beyond my years, assess and refer, assess and refer. And, you know, when patients walk in through the front door, we're really just asking questions. We want to get to know them. We want to get to know what their barriers and challenges are. And then we refer them. And higher level of care could be outpatient. It could be our intensive outpatient program. It could be partial hospitalization. Root Center now has a residential treatment facility, so we're 3.5 clinically monitored. So it could be our residential facility, or it could be you know, resources and services outside of Root Center. The whole point is just that we assess and refer, and we assess to see if they need a higher level of care than what they're currently engaged in.
And that can be, you know, I imagine for a patient, or even just thinking back to maybe like your younger years. So if you needed a little bit more assistance and you're in school, right? Maybe you have to see a tutor. Maybe you go to another classroom for some extra help. And when you're in those positions, sometimes you can feel kind of bad about yourself. Like, oh, I need more, or this isn't good enough. And especially when you're starting a recovery journey, even just walking in through the door, that can feel like a ton of bricks, just, you know, the weight of carrying that. And then to be told, well, we think we should do something else. How do you speak to the patient and not feeling overwhelmed and seeing that this is actually a good thing? This is something that's going to support you even further.
It's all about meeting them where they are. You know, I can only imagine, and, you know, someone once said to me a long, long time ago that you never know the path in which someone else has walked in. So I can never pretend to be in someone else's shoes. But having barriers and challenges myself and getting to a point where I'm at least acknowledging them or showing up to those barriers and challenges to face them, to then be told like, oh wait, nope, you also have to go to this doctor appointment. Oh no, wait, you also have to do this and you also have to do that. It's overwhelming. It's exhausting. It's like, well, I showed up, you know, like at least I'm here. At least I started, at least I walked through the door. So when patients come in, you know, from my experience, it's really just that. It's, well, Ash, I got here. I showed up today. You know, I woke up this morning, I set an alarm, I got to my appointment to get my medication, or I got to my appointment if it's my private practice to at least just show up for this call. Like, I don't want to hear what else I need right now. Like, at least I'm here. And I think it's really just acknowledging that and having empathy as a human being, because that's really all that we are. Yes, I might hold a title of a therapist and they might hold this title, so to speak, as the patient, but it's a human to human conversation to say that, you know, I'm happy that you showed up. You know, I'm proud of you for showing up. And it's my role and my job in your life right now to be able to say, like, yes, you showed up today, and when you're ready, this is the next step. And when you're ready to take that step, let me know. And I'm just going to be here to continue to remind you that we don't just show up and stay there, right? We make goals. We accomplish those goals. We make steps towards those goals. And I wouldn't be a good therapist if I just let you kind of sit and linger, you know? And we have to keep pushing the button for ourselves. And I think as human beings, we have to do that for each other too, and hold each other accountable. It really is about accountability and understanding and empathy.
And there's not much that you can do these days where you can just do the one thing and then that's good enough, right? Like, imagine you're getting surgery, there's PT afterwards, or you're diabetic, you get put on insulin, but there's going to be some nutritional guidelines that you have to follow. Whatever it may be, there's not, you know, it would be so easy, right? If we could just say, here's the one thing you got to do and now all your problems go away. But for most things in our life, there's going to be supplemental, you know, points of action that we have to take in order to grow. And I think sometimes changing the mindset of seeing it as something punitive or just one more thing you have to do, rather than seeing it as something supportive that you get to do, that's only going to uplift the other work that you're already doing.
Oh, for sure. You know, I have, had issues with my heart, for example, and it's been a continuous thing, and I got to a point where they're like, okay, you're good. You can move to like bi-monthly appointments or every 3 months. You just got to continue to do these things throughout those 3 months and you'll be good. I'm like, yeah, okay. Some of those things were like, drink a gallon of water with electrolytes, or, eat healthy and exercise, go for walks 45 minutes. I was like, yeah, okay, I got it, whatever. And then I stopped doing it. Because I'm like, I'm good. Everything's good. Everything's fine. And then lo and behold, those heart problems came right back. So I think it's, yes, mental health, and yes, substance use, of course. Like, we need to follow through, we need to set goals. But again, back to my comment of like, we're human beings, and it's so much more than just the substance use. It's so much more than just the mental health. When patients walk through our front door and we're assessing and referring to this HLOC, higher level of care, we'd be silly to ignore everything else that they have going on in their lives. And yes, I'm asking a patient to attend 4 hours a day, 5 days a week of partial hospitalization, but I would be naive to then also neglect the fact that they have kids at home, or they have a job that they need to, support their family and get money, or maybe they have medical concerns and medical stuff going on. So yeah, I think it's really just, again, and I feel like a broken record, meeting the patient where they're at and just meeting it with some compassion and understanding, and it'll probably go a lot further of the way than just, showing up and saying, oh, nope, here's your receipt, or here's your script for PHP. See you later. Have a good day. Make sure you show up on the start date. It's very different. Two different types of conversations to have.
Well, and I imagine too, it's not like we're saying this is a life sentence. This is what you have to do forever. This is just for right now. So like, yes, of course, who wants to go for 4 hours every day?
I know, I wouldn't.
Right? We all have things that we want to do. Correct. And all things that we need to do too. Yeah. So.
But sometimes you want to just do nothing.
Exactly. And sometimes there's a time to do nothing too.
Correct.
But knowing that this is just one step. This is just one step in the journey. This is just the road we're on right now. Mm-hmm. And eventually it will get a little bit easier.
And it does. And it's, speaking to maybe our viewers that are, struggling with this, or maybe like a viewer of ours is, was told that they have to do PHP or residential, right? It is not forever, and it is one moment, and it is an opportunity to reset. And I think that is so incredibly important, is to be able to take a step back and say, hey, if I reset right now, how much further is that going to take me after the fact? Once I resolve these next few weeks and put all this effort and all of this thought and energy into myself for a few weeks, how many more steps on that ladder am I going to be able to excel forward after I do this? And, when we do intakes with patients, yes, we assess and refer, but we also talk about transition and discharge, and what does it look like after you finish this program. For the therapists that are listening, that's what you should do. But it's so important. That conversation is so important, because what it does is we might rock these folks' worlds by saying, hey, you need to go to a residential facility for 60 days. And then we never talk about what after the fact looks like. We never talk about the light at the end of the tunnel, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And that part is so important to let folks know that this is short term. Just like you said, it's not forever. It's not a life sentence. This is just an opportunity to reset, so that we can get you back on the path that you want to be on, and not one in which you feel that you have no control of.
There's a quote that I really love. It's don't worry about the amount of time that it's going to take, because the time will pass anyways.
Yes.
The time's gonna, right? So if you're worried about those 60 days, you're worried about 30 days, you're worried about the 4 hours, they're gonna go by.
Correct.
Those 60 days are gonna go by anyways, whether you're working hard during it or you're not.
Yep.
Sure. And so just deciding like one day or day one, and when do you want that to begin?
Oh my God, so true. So incredibly true.
I think I could have this conversation. I could pick apart your brain forever. I think it's so interesting. But I think this is the nature of the conversations that we want to have moving forward on this podcast, right? Just make it informational, but also make it conversational. Mm-hmm. And we want it to be engaging with our viewers.
Yes.
So any of you watching, listening, whatever you're doing,
yeah.
Leave us comments, leave us questions, leave us topics.
Oh my gosh, yes. I would love to hear what folks would want to hear about.
Yeah.
Whether it's on your, drive to work, or on your way into Root Center. What is it that you're interested in listening to and hearing about? And maybe I don't know, come on the podcast.
Yeah,
you're the star. You're the boss.
We can have a guest. We can have guests. I mean, I'm already very excited. I'll give a little teaser for our next episode, just because I already have it planned.
Yeah.
We're going to have someone from our last community forum on social media and mental health. He's a professor up at UConn, also very, very involved with a lot of stuff that's been going on legally to try and change some of the protocols around social media and digital wellness. He's coming back on the podcast. He was another one at the forum. I could have just kept picking his brain, so I'm really excited that we get to sit down with him, ask him a few more questions on just a more personal level than it was at the forum. Because, that's another topic, social media, and we're going to have to keep an eye on the clock for that one.
Huge, I know. We can talk forever.
Well, Ashley, thank you so much. I think this is going to be fun. Maybe we get our viewers to even chime in with a new name, right? We've been Recovery with Root for 2 years. We were spitballing, we were workshopping 2 execs, no script. That was one. So leave them in the comments if you guys have suggestions. Again, we want this to be a user-friendly podcast. So Ashley, I'm excited to do this with you.
I'm so excited.
And we look forward to giving the people what they want.
Yes, I'm so happy. Thank you.
All right, thank you too.
All right, bye guys.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of our podcast, Recovery with Root. As always, stay connected with us on social media to learn about when next podcast episodes will drop. You can comment, ask questions, even let us know about future topics that you'd like to see discussed. Until next time, remember, progress is the destination.